Hello, everyone. I'm Meher Walia, and welcome to Finding Finance, the podcast where we delve into the different subfields of finance. This podcast aims to help high schoolers who are contemplating a career in finance understand the different paths in the world of finance and help them find which path interests them the most. Our guest today is Pawan Singh, who is a partner at Bain Capital Private Equity, based in their India office. Prior to that, he was a part of the North American private equity team based out in New York. Mr. Singh has been at Bain Capital since 2001, prior to which he was in management consulting. Bain Capital is one of the world's leading private investment firms with approximately $185 billion of assets under management. Bain specializes in private and public equity, fixed income, venture capital, and specialty fund investments across multiple sectors, industries, asset classes, and geographies. I hope you enjoy our conversation with Pawan Singh, who will enlighten us about the world of private equity. Mr. Singh, thank you for joining us today. Let's start off with a few questions about the early parts of your career. What was your education path like? Is this typical of what most people do?
Firstly, Meher, thanks for having me on your show. It's great to get a chance to speak to all the young high schoolers interested in finance. I hope they find this helpful. In terms of my own education path, I did my undergraduate in biochemistry and then worked for a few years, then went into the world of finance, went back to school for my MBA, and have been in the world of finance and private equity since. I would say, is this typical? Probably not the biochemistry part, but the rest of it, yes.
So you started your career path as pre-med. How did the transition from science to business and finance happen?
Well, I was always interested in business. Even in undergraduate, while I was studying biochemistry, I did some of my internships in the summer at different companies, including management consulting. Eventually, when I was graduating, I decided to go work for a few years, primarily actually to save up some money for medical school, and then decided I really liked it. And, as they say, the rest is history.
So what exactly is private equity, and how does it differ from other forms of investments?
Yeah, private equity is a very broad term. I guess at its most basic, it means investing in the equity of businesses that are not publicly listed or widely available for people to buy. It spans a lot of different types of investing. So private equity most commonly refers to late-stage buyout type of investing, which is buying large-scale businesses generally for a controlling stake. It also includes venture capital, which is investing in all the exciting early stage technology and other companies, and then many other parts of private equity, including mid-stage, late-stage growth, et cetera. So it's a fairly broad universe. I would say the other big part of the investing universe is obviously the listed securities, which are all the public companies and stock markets that typically consumers can invest in. Then there's real estate and several other asset classes outside of that.
Wow, very interesting. What made you want to go into private equity? Was there anyone who inspired you to do this?
So my journey to private equity was a bit roundabout. I started in management consulting, and then in the early 2000s actually left management consulting to do a startup. As part of that startup, we had a lot of fundraising meetings, which eventually were not successful. But I got time spent with a lot of investors trying to pitch our idea. Eventually decided that maybe it was better to be on the other side of the table, and started looking for investing jobs. I had an old colleague who had joined Bain Capital and was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to work there. And that's how my journey in private equity began.
Wow. So if I got this correct, after many years in the U.S., you moved to India with Bain Capital. How did you transition to India and why? What was that like?
Yeah, it's been a really exciting journey. So I was based out of New York in Bain Capital's North American Private Equity Group. And then in the mid 2000s, the firm was expanding in Asia. In 2005, 6, 7, we opened our offices in Japan and China. We raised our first Asian fund. And as part of that effort, one of my mentors who was leading Asia said, look, why don't we see if it makes sense to start something in India? I went down, spent some time there, and said, look, long term, it's going to be a really exciting market. It was an opportunity to do something entrepreneurial, but within a more established firm. And so in late 2008, I moved to India to help start our business there.
And you've been there ever since, correct?
I have. It's been 15 years plus now.
That's great. How did that transition shape your career? Do you have any regrets?
No, not at all. It's been a great journey. As I said, it was really an entrepreneurial journey to set up our office, build the team, establish the franchise, shape our strategy. And India and Asia more broadly has been, a pretty exciting market. It's come a long way over the last 15 years, and it's been really fun building our business there.
To what extent are you still involved in the Bain Capital's North American deals or projects since you're in India?
Yeah, our firm is very globally integrated. So we do chase opportunities together where it makes sense. So there are several, I would say, global businesses that touch both India and North America, where we've worked on deals together with our North American colleagues. Beyond that, I'm part of some select firm-wide initiatives that I help with. And so there's a lot of close interaction between the different offices in India, North America, and other parts of the world.
Since you do have experience with both the North American and the Asia market, how is the world of finance different in Asia compared to the U.S.? What are some of the difficulties you had to overcome due to these differences?
Wow, that's a hard question. Firstly, Asia itself is actually not one market. Each of the countries, or at least the big countries there, are quite distinct. So at the one end, you have Japan, which is, pretty developed buyout market. Traditional, lots of leverage, corporate carve-outs, et cetera. Looks more like the U.S. And then on the other end, you have India, China, parts of Southeast Asia, which are more growth-oriented markets. In those markets, especially in India, if you went back in time, the vast majority of what private equity did was minority growth investments, not a lot of use of debt or leverage as you see in the U.S. But I would say the markets have evolved over time. A lot of our investing in India today is control investments. There is leverage. The underlying bets are still more growth-oriented, just given the nature of the economy and where it is. But, the U.S. is definitely the largest market. It is the most advanced, the most, sophisticated in terms of use of leverage, et cetera. But I would say the Asian markets have come a long way over the last 15 years.
Wow. Where do you see the world of private equity 10 years from now? So we've went to the past, and now we're going into the future.
Yeah. Private equity as an asset class, I think, will continue to grow and become more important. If you look at institutional investors who are really the clients, if you will, of the private equity world, they've seen good returns through cycles. And so as a young person who thinks about entering a growth industry that'll have prospects for a long time, I think private equity is a great one.
That's great. And what is the work-life balance like in the private equity world? I know you hear lots of stories about jobs coming straight out of college and working long hours. How is that, the hours?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think I knew the term work-life balance when I was coming out of high school or college. But it is, clearly important, and I think a good thing to think about and focus on. I would say private equity generally, in the spectrum of careers, is a more demanding career. The notion of working all hours, I would say is probably not correct. I think most firms today do focus on work-life balance. There are periods of sprints where things get quite busy. but there are values as well. And, we make sure that our teams have a good balance between working hard, but also making sure that, they're getting time to spend with their families and other pursuits and have a good balance overall.
That's always great to hear. Now, moving away from the work and a bit more to your personal life, do you have any hobbies, any time for them? If so, which?
Yeah, between work and my young children who I like spending time with, it is quite busy, but I do enjoy playing tennis. I cook. I travel a fair bit, meeting friends. And so, between all that and the children and work, it's a busy day.
Now, for kids in high school and college looking to enter the world of finance and private equity, what advice would you have for them?
It's a great question. I guess if you're in high school and already thinking about these issues, you're already ahead of the game, at least relative to where I was. I would say, look, first and foremost, training your mind, becoming more analytical, strengthening your quantitative skills, math, economics, statistics, thinking critically about issues, developing a good work ethic. I think those are the most important things that you need to learn as you go through high school and college. How do you listen? How do you learn? How do you adapt? And honestly, it doesn't matter what subjects you're studying. I did biochemistry and then went into finance. Having said that, look, obviously, if you do finance, if you do economics, if you do math or statistics, those are more relevant skills that will help you. Outside of formal curriculum, just having a keen interest on what's going on in the business world, what's going on. And, the stock market is an easy sort of financial market to follow. I'm not encouraging to go out and invest in markets. But at least, seeing what is happening to the different companies, what is the commentary, what moves stocks. I think those are all things that will help build your interest, build your intuition as you look long-term to enter a career of finance.
Thank you so much. That advice was truly invaluable. And thank you so much for your time and joining us here today. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you.